And last but not least, you all guys can have political powers, you can have the best curriculum, you can have the best network. I think that Europe needs to claim a name above all, that is Jesus. Because when the left hear this name, they tremble. You cannot win this fight without him. Thank you so much. Being in this parliament is not merely a personal honor. Above all, it's a clear reminder of what is truly at stake in our time. Parliament exists because throughout history, free societies have understood a fundamental truth. Power must be overseen, confronted, and permanently questioned. And this is only possible where there is freedom, especially freedom of speech. Freedom is not a concession granted by the state. It does not arise from resolutions or administrative permissions. As Frédéric Bastiat thought, it was not the law that created freedom. It was freedom that made the law necessary. When this order is reversed, rights cease to be recognized as rights and begin to be treated as favors. And when rights become favors, democracy has already begun to erode. Among all freedoms, freedom of speech is the one that sustains the others. George Washington warned that when it's taken from us, we are led in silence, like sheep to the slaughter. He was not speaking of a sudden coup, but of a slow, almost invisible process in which fear replaces courage and conformity takes the place of debate. It is within this context that Parliament fulfills a central role. It exists to oversee the government, to challenge power, and to represent the plurality of society. Therefore, the freedom of parliamentarians to speak, question, criticize, and denounce must be full and unhindered. When a parliamentarian is silenced, he is not merely an individual who loses a voice. It is the citizen he or she represents. In Brazil, I have experienced this reality firsthand. I was elected federal deputy in 2022 as the most voted candidate in the country. And it's important to explain this to the international audience. In Brazil, electoral campaigns can consume millions in public funds. Mine did not. It was financed by private donations at an average cost of approximately €1 per vote. The internet, as a free space for the exchange of ideas, was decisive in this process. There, ordinary citizens were able to debate politics without official filters, without state mediation, and without prior authorization. And it was precisely for this reason that the reaction came. At the end of that election, my social media accounts were suspended after I requested that the Electoral Court investigated allegations related to the electronic voting system. I did not declare fraud. I did not incite violence. I merely requested an investigation. Even so, I was censored. It became clear that the issue was not the content, but the right to question. Later, as a sitting deputy, I was sued for fake news by the then Minister of Human Rights in President Lula's government after I denounced the government intention to implement unisex bathrooms in public spaces, including schools, something that was explicitly stated in a public resolution issued by a federal council. Shortly thereafter, the same minister was dismissed following allegations of harassment against another minister. The fact I denounced remained true. The lawsuit against me did as well. In another episode, I was questioned by the federal police for having called the President of the Republic a thief in a speech delivered at the United Nations. Whether one agrees with me or not, the central question is, can a parliamentarian be criminally investigated for a political opinion? When that question no longer has a clear answer, democracy has already begun to deform. These facts lead us to a recent and revealing example of the importance of social media as a space for free debate. I published a video criticizing the Brazilian government's intention to monitor transactions conducted through Pix, the most widely used instant payment system in the country. The video surpassed 340 million views. This was not merely an impressive number. It was proof that society wants to be heard, wants to participate in the debate, and does not accept measures that threaten fundamental rights. The reaction was so intense that the very next day, the Brazilian government reversed course and revoked the regulation that would have expanded oversight of PIX, an explicit retreat in the face of popular pressure fueled by social media. These episodes are not exceptions. They are part of a broader trend. They attempt to control public debate under the seductive discourse of so-called regulation. And there is an important point here. This process does not affect only parliamentarians. It cascades downward and reaches the most vulnerable. It affects students in schools and universities who learn earlier on that certain questions must be not asked. It affects teachers who begin to weigh every word out of fear of punishment. It affects pastors, fathers and mothers, ordinary citizens who feel constant pressure to remain silent, even in the face of absurdity. Because if those who enjoy parliamentary immunity are being persecuted, investigated and intimidated for their opinions, the message received by the ordinary citizens is simple and brutal. Stay silent or you will be the next. This is the pedagogy of fear. Recently, I perceived even greater clarity the strategy of the censors. It is not merely about defeating the right politically, but about killing it while it is alive, pushing it into invisibility, suffocating its presence on social media, and spreading digital fear so that it paralyzes people in real life. Face this. I made a concrete decision. I decided to launch a movement called Wake Up Brazil. I walked for 7 days, foot by foot, covering 255 kilometers from my state, Minas Gerais, to the capital of Brazil, to send a clear message. We exist, we will not accept being pushed into silence, we will not be stopped, neither on social media nor in the physical world. People were calling me the Brazilian Forrest Gump. But it was the best experience of my life. And this was possible because today the internet is the largest public square in the history of humanity. It where ideas emerge, circulated, are challenged, corrected and refined. Its foundation is freedom. And in Brazil, there are repeated proposals to force the removal of publications deemed potentially false without a judicial decision. This is not regulation. This is a political control of speech. Whenever the state assumes the role of a prior arbiter of truth, debate dies before it even begins. Censorship rarely presents itself as tyranny. It presents itself as care, protection, the fight against hatred or the fight against disinformation. But the final result is always the same. Less freedom, less pluralism, less democracy. Defending freedom of speech does not mean agreeing with everything that is said. It means understanding that truth does not arise from imposed silence, but from the open confrontation of ideas. It means trusting society more than the censor. The great challenge of our time is to occupy spaces of dialogue with courage, clarity and responsibility. That is why this meeting matters. That is why this message must be clear. Defending freedom of speech does not weaken democracy. Defending it strengthens democracy. And this is not a responsibility of one country, one parliament, or one generation alone. This is a permanent individual commitment to the very idea of a free civilization. I will continue with courage to defend my family, my homeland, my faith, and no censor will ever be able to stop me. And I encourage you all to do the same. And last but not least, you all guys can have political powers, you can have the best curriculum, you can have the best network. I think that Europe needs to claim a name above all, that is Jesus. Because when the left hear this name, they tremble. You cannot win this fight without him. Thank you so much.